Hey guys, Tekking here. Looks like that the One Piece review is going to be delayed again this week. The issue is the same as last week. We're actually remodeling part of our house. Our kitchen is being redone, so it's kind of busy during the day for me to film downstairs. But the thing that I like to do is I'd like to get something out there for you guys. And back when I was doing my Bleach reviews, you know, if I couldn't get the Bleach review out on the same day as the chapter, I always like to release like a discussion video about something pertaining to the chapter, you know, to kind of like extend some discussions or whatever. And also maybe it's something I can't touch upon in great length when I do the video, so I decided, you know, to make a separate video about it. So with that being said, I think this is as good a time as any to talk about Katakuri, talk about Charlotte Katakuri, or Charlotte Dogtooth, however you want to call him, whatever. Easily the most badass looking out of all of the Big Mom pirates in the Charlotte family. I mean, it's just like we have some people that look like fucking pedophile Candymen, and then we have whatever the hell this is. But then we get to Charlotte Dogtooth, who I imagine looked at the rest of his family, all his brothers and his sisters and his mom, and he's going through his edgy teenage phase, and he's like, "Fuck you, Mom! I don't want to live in a world full of candy and pies and cakes and cookies. I'm awesome." And so he goes to like Hot Topic and gets himself, you know, all the awesome armbands and the spikes, and throws a freaking scarf over him and cuts his mouth open. He's super edgy, you know, and then we get this. Now, with that being said, I wouldn't poke fun at him too much because he does currently have the highest bounty in the entire story, period, that we currently know of. I'm assuming that, you know, Big Mom's bounty and like Yonko, like Shanks and everybody, they would have a higher bounty. But as far as bounties that we're aware of, he has the highest at 1,057,000,000. All right, so that's nothing to scoff at. That's even higher than Jax, who was previously the highest one we've known. So yeah, he's pretty badass. Now, the thing that we're going to be discussing mainly in this video is his devil fruit, the Mochi Mochi no Mi. Now, this is an interesting one because it was retconned. Now, what a retcon is, you know, you introduce a concept and it's, you know, blatantly, you know, said one way, like this is how it is, and then later on it's just changed. No real explanation. It's basically just the author being like, okay, I fucked up, guys. I didn't mean it for it to be this. It makes more sense for it to be this. I'm just going to go ahead and make the change. I'm not really going to elaborate on it at all. I'm not really going to explain or anything like why it was changed. It's just like, here, this is the way it is now. Okay, so just, I'm sorry about before, but this is the way it is now. When Dogtooth or Katakuri's original technique was shown, the Mochi Mochi no Mi, he showed to be able to, you know, produce a sticky mochi-like substance from his body. Now, mochi, it could be like a little, like an actual, like, rice cakey sort of thing. Like, I'm not Japanese, I've never had it before. But it can also refer to anything just generally sticky, like chewing gum, right? So basically allows him to turn his body into chewing gum. And then we've seen him, you know, fire this off, like, with his kicks and stuff, and it slammed into Luffy. And then while getting hit from it, you simultaneously get trapped in it, and you can't move. So it seemed like a very devastating ability that he was really skilled at using, and Jinbei called it a Logia. But the thing that I was always kind of skittish about when we found out he was a Logia was, you know, all the other Logias we've seen in the story are like naturally occurring elements on Earth somewhere, you know, like fire, ice, snow, mud, even things that you want to be like, oh, that's kind of debatable whether it's an element, like Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi, like his darkness an element. It's like, yeah, well, it's in the realm of fiction. Darkness, light, all could be considered elements, but whatever. Anyway, then we get to Dogtooth, who is like chewing gum or mochi, and I'm thinking, alright, I mean, it's One Piece. I was a little bit weirded out because it just seemed to be like the odd duck in the bunch, but whatever, I'll go with the fantasy. But then I guess, you know, something happened and Oda wanted to change his mind. It was revealed in the One Piece magazine that he's referred to as a Paramecia, but not just a ordinary Paramecia. No, he's a special Paramecia. And I'm like, oh shit, now are we going on a whole other... You know what? It's cool, because I've even said that I would like to see different categories of Paramecia. We've already seen different categories of zone fruits, you know, ancient zones, carnivorous zones, mythical zones, but Paramecia is the category that just chuck everything that doesn't fit in the first two categories into the Paramecia category. And because of that, you get a lot of batshit nutter butters, crazy freaking ice ice cream cone abilities, okay? So I was always saying, like, maybe there should be different categories for Paramecia to help, you know, organize these better. And so now we kind of got one, the special Paramecia category. The kicker here is the similarities between Luffy's Devil Fruit, the Gamu Gamu no Mi, and Katakuri's Mochi Mochi no Mi, alright? So the main difference, and I brought this up when I did my videos on, you know, Luffy's Devil Fruit and when I was talking about the Logia Devil Fruits and everything, you know, what is the difference between Luffy becoming a naturally occurring element, rubber, to all the Logia Devil Fruits that can also turn into an element? The only real difference is that Luffy cannot actually let attacks pass through him, or he can't be rendered intangible, or he can't even do the thing that Aokiji did. He can't let attacks pass through him, but when Aokiji turns into ice and he gets hit, it's just he gets shattered, but he can come back together again. You know, Luffy can't do anything like that. If he gets seriously injured, he gets seriously injured. That's just how it goes. Luffy cannot, if he was like genuinely made of rubber, you think he would have, like, better free-form control over it. Like, he would be able to, like, open up a hole in the middle of his body, or, like, shape his arm or hand into different, like, shapes or something like that, if he was, like, genuinely made of rubber. So that's what I think. Maybe he's just, you know, it's just taking on the effects of rubber, you know, the properties of rubber, not actually becoming literal rubber. So, with that being said, if Katakuri, though, is going to be considered a special Paramecia, I want Luffy to be considered a special Paramecia, too, because there's not a lot of other Paramecias that have the same similar effects that Luffy's Devil Fruit does. There are other Paramecias that summon some kind of substance, right? Like, you have Galdino summoning wax, you have Magellan summoning poison, but it doesn't actually change their physical bodies. Luffy's body is physically changed. Katakuri's body is physically changed. It's just that they don't have complete dominance over that element or over that substance like a Logia does. We've seen in the recent chapter, and this is the thing that really queued me up here because he used this in chapter 877, Luffy went to go punch him, Katakuri went to go, you know, punch him as well. Katakuri stretched out his arm. Okay? It wasn't like he was just shooting a glob of mochi. His little fist and his arm stretched out and they clashed in midair. And Carrot even noted that's very similar to how Luffy uses his Devil Fruit. Now, you could always say that it wasn't actually his fist that was stretching. It was just his Devil Fruit. Like, let's say his arm and his fist stayed exactly the same, but when he shot out his mochi, it took the shape of a fist. You could always say that, but I think from this panel here and from what Carrot said, I think it's very clear that, yeah, Katakuri's body, it takes on the effects of mochi, or is mochi itself, and can actually stretch the same way that Luffy can stretch. But if he gets hit, he gets hit. You know, with you know, hockey or not hockey, that's how it goes. That's the case there. And I was also thinking, like, if you were dead set on making him a Logia, there's a couple of other things you could have used that weren't mochi that could have made sense. Like, even in the realms of, like, Totland, where everything has to be, like, based on food, you could have had, like a maple syrup Devil Fruit, like the syrup no Mi. There you go! Syrup no Mi. That's a naturally occurring thing. That's in nature. That's food-based. I mean, we kind of already had that as the Ami no Mi in that one movie, but whatever. That was a movie. You're Oda. You could do whatever you want. And that would have the same similar effects, I think, a syrup fruit. But no, you went with mochi. You went with, like, the chewing gum shit. So, yeah, I think that's the case with him, you know, and I don't know exactly why it was retconned, why they decided to go with this. Maybe it was like, Oda's like, maybe I have something else I want to go for him, or oh shit, I made him too strong, or something like that, because on top of having his Devil Fruit, he's also got, he also has the ability to, like, shoot jelly beans like they're bullets, and even more dangerous than that, even more dangerous than the ability to shoot jelly beans. I know that's a terrifying ability just out of the gate, but he also has that observation hockey that allows him to basically predict the future. So, or at least predict, you know, the immediate future, like if the events were to occur the same way, like how they would go about it. And maybe considering with all those other abilities he had, Oda thought giving him a Logia ability might make him a little bit too badass, might make him a little bit too powerful, and that would give Luffy, like, no chance to win against him. So that's the case there. And there's something else, and I hesitate to bring this up because this even might be a little bit of an inconsistency here. But consider that whenever Dogtooth, went to go punch Luffy, Luffy was using, he was using Red Hawk or Hawk Gatling. He was using his fire ability when he went to go and punch Dogtooth, right? So you'd figure that if Dogtooth was really made of mochi, like the literal, like, substance mochi or, like, chewing gum or whatever, and they came in contact, his arm would maybe begin to melt a little bit, or at least to change shape a little bit because of the intense heat from Luffy's punch, But then again, I mean, it's not like if you hold a flame over mochi or if you hold a flame over, like, gum, it's instantly just gonna, like, melt into ooze. And they only clash very briefly, and then you can always include hockey in there somewhere. I only bring it up because, like, right before Luffy fought against Katakuri, he, punched a hole right through the freaking candy wall, Iron Maiden thing that Sparrow created, and because that was made of candy and Luffy was made of fire, it was, Luffy's attack was fire, it dealt, intense damage to that candy wall, and then he immediately clashes with Katakuri, and there doesn't seem to be any effect. But like I said, it was only like one punch. You could always include hockey in there, everything like that, and it's not like, it would instantly disintegrate anyway. Because even if, like I said, taking on the properties of rubber, taking on the properties of mochi, even though if you don't want to say Luffy is literally made of rubber, he still has the property to be immune to, like, electricity, for instance. How, Eneru was able to shock him and that did nothing to Luffy. So, it's confusing. It's the thing that's bugging me. If we're going to be honest, the thing that really bugs me is that you look at all the Logias right now, because Katakuri's no longer a Logia, and each and every one, fire, ice, earth, wind, fire, air, all the things that exist in nature and everything like that, snow, okay, but then you get to Luffy, who's rubber, and that's also naturally occurring, and he's apparently made out of it. He's not just generating rubber, he is a rubber boy, so I'm like, that always bugs me. So basically what I'm trying to get across here is, if you want to classify Katakuri as a special Paramecia who's able to actually take on the properties of mochi and stretch his body out and do all that crazy stuff, take on the sticky aspects of mochi without actually being a Logia, Luffy's the same. Luffy's a special Paramecia too, taking on the properties of rubber, not having complete control over his body like a Logia is, but still takes on the properties of a naturally occurring element. Let's go with that. All right, is everyone cool with that? All right, fine. And, considering that we said earlier that, Katakuri has the highest bounty in the story, that doesn't mean, bounty's not always indicative of strength, but you don't get a 1,057,000,000 goddamn bounty unless you're pretty strong. So, with that in mind, with the fact that Luffy is clashing with him right now, it might actually seem like sort of like a negative version of Luffy. I'm just like, this is evil Luffy, the closest thing we'll get to evil Luffy the entire story, who has abilities that are very similar to Luffy's, in fact, even a little bit worse, because on top of being able to stretch, Katakuri also has that sticky aspect that can actually trap his enemies inside of the substance he extends out from his body, that his body's made out of. But yeah, I mean, with that coupled with the hockey, that's going to be difficult, and I don't think he's going to be defeated right now. It's going to be more of just like Luffy might be able to do something clever to get him off the ship, and then they can get away. And then considering what just happened at the end of the chapter with, Pedro, I'll get into that when we get to the review, but, you are in forever in our hearts, Jaguar, bro. You're right up there with Grimjow now, at my favorite Jaguar-based anime characters. But you get Katakuri off the ship, you fucking Kude burst the hell out of there, and later on in the story, you'll have a few members of the Big Mom Pirates, like, hunting after the Straw Hats. Like, you'll have Big Mom, of course, you'll have Katakuri, you'll have Smoothie, because we didn't really get to see what she could do, and yeah, so that's the regard. Like, the Sweet Commanders, really, are gonna, like, go hunting after Luffy, and we might get to see a full-on battle with them later. But I don't think we're going to get that right now. But anyway, what do you guys think about Katakuri? What do you think about his Devil Fruit? What do you think about the special Paramecia class and Luffy's placement there? What do you guys think about all this shit? Thanks for watching, everybody. Get the review out as quick as I can. Also, by the way, I might be doing like a special live stream tonight with a bunch of other anime reviewers. Like Rogers Base reached out to us and he was like, hey, you guys want to do this? That would be at, in my time zone, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. And it's going to be I think King of Lightning might be able to get there for Neverworld. I don't know if King of Lightning will be there because he has classes, but for Neverworld might be there. Joy Boy, Yonko Productions, all those guys. So that'll be tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, if I'm remembering this correctly. I'm a horrible promotional man. Yeah, there's this thing that might be tonight. I don't know the time, though. I'll be there. But anyway, yeah, so just keep an eye out for that. Maybe go subscribe to Roger's channel, because he'll be the one streaming it, so go subscribe to Roger's base, because he's awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out. I gotta go to work now. Bye, Z's!